right, so welcome back to another episode of Fast Casual Nation, and today we're going to be talking about plant-based fast casual concepts and the exploding growth here in the United States. And with me, I've got Steve Heeley of Veggie Grill. So great to have you on the show, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. All right. So, Steve, let's get, for you guys are obviously a West Coast brand, but for a lot of our listeners, kind of give us the backstory. How did Veggie Grill get started? How'd you guys get going?
Sure. Actually, we're West Coast based, but we do have restaurants in Chicago, Boston, and as of next Thursday, New York.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, Veggie Grill started one restaurant in Irvine, California about 13 years ago. Our two co-founders had a vision of creating a plant-based fast casual concept where guests could come get craveable, healthy food, and so that was a start.
Gotcha. Okay. So 13 years in the plant-based area. Obviously, California was where everything began. Were you seeing early signs of kind of the plant-based trends starting there in California that far back, or was this something that you guys just had a very passionate founder and this was the concept they wanted to build?
Well, our two co-founders actually took a pretty rational approach. They believed that there was room and a consumer base for this healthy food. They saw the trend. At that time, it wasn't called plant-based. It was actually, people spoke about this food as vegan or vegetarian.
Interesting. Okay.
But they had kind of done a lot of research on healthy eating, and it actually made a decision themselves to go plant-based. But yeah, even at that point, particularly in big cities, there was this growing audience for this vegan food, and which it's grown exponentially since then. But I think they realized even at that point that there was a lot of people that wanted to eat this veggie forward food, and so their vision was pretty right on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that far out, before the kind of the revolution began is always interesting because that's something that we watch a lot, at least on the coastal areas for fast casual developments. Typically, we see brands start to emerge well ahead of certain kinds of trends, kind of in your case. When you look, so fast casual has kind of started to see a lot more entrance into the healthy eating space. We are tracking, now in the dozens of brands that are qualified or consider themselves healthy eating. And of those, we're seeing really great performances in terms of foot traffic. So double digits are up again this year for most of these brands. We see how that could work in, kind of the coastal areas. I'm kind of curious, do you feel like this type of product could work in, the middle America, whether it's Texas or Oklahoma or Arizona?
Oh, sure. I think 10 years ago, I would have not been as optimistic, but I think the consumer base today, and I think what's interesting is everybody's redefining what healthy means.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really gone the route of curated diets, and everybody sort of has their own food journey that they're on. But in the plant-based, 100% plant-based space, clearly the momentum's building. And yeah, I think a lot of trends start in the big cities and on the coast, New York, LA, San Francisco, and then it sort of finds its way into other cities. But clearly that movement is underway and gaining momentum. So I think this demand is going to grow. And I think within the next decade, more people than not are going to adopt plant-forward diets. Not everyone's going to be 100% plant-based.
Sure.
But people have clearly figured out that eating plant-based is ultimately the healthiest diet you could adopt. So whether they eat it every day or they're adding more plant-based foods to their diet and their meals, I think it's quickly become the bar for what healthy means, because healthy means a little bit something different to everyone. For one individual, it could mean that I eat white meat chicken instead of eating dark meat chicken.
Right.
For other people, it could mean I eat raw,
Okay.
and don't eat any cooked foods. So I think that's what's so interesting about food trends right now is clearly plant-based is exploding, but also the people adopting their own specific diets, whether it's keto or paleo or whole
Right.
30 or low carb and no carb. It's I think concepts that are prepared to meet those needs and sort of this customization of diets are going to be positioned for success.
Yeah, for sure. So when you guys get into the sourcing side of it, obviously plant-based is seasonal. What and how do you go about that with being able to plan a menu? Obviously, some vegetables just aren't available in certain times of the year.
Sure, I think we address it two ways. One, we do 4 seasonal menus a year,
Hmm.
and then we also do some things around the holidays. So we're always looking on those seasonal, we call them seasonal celebrations. We're always looking for what's the best of the season, what's unique, what's craveable, what is the consumer looking for, or maybe what are things we can bring to the consumer they haven't seen before.
Right.
What's really fantastic about um, you know particularly on the produce side with vegetables and fruits and that kind of thing is it's there's some challenges at times on seasonality. Products might be more expensive or in sort
Sure.
of um, low volume, but you can find what's pretty amazing nowadays with the way the produce supply chain works. You can find a lot of things, most things we use year round, throughout the country. So it's the produce supply chain. The industry's done a pretty good job on being able to meet demand and get product to where you need it. Um, um, so I think we don't have significant challenges on that. There are seasonal challenges, and at
Hmm.
times, like sweet corn, we typically have items that feature fresh organic corn, and so we would just do those seasonally in the summer versus trying to do something year round where you don't have the quality.
Right. Sure. And obviously for building out menus, the culinary aspect starts to roll into this. Chefs have kind of started this migration, so to speak, of moving fine dining elements into fast casual. And there's not a ton of plant-based chefs out there, so I'm kind of curious. How do you see chef innovations and culinary advancements making its way into the plant-forward type concepts? Do you feel like that's something that's coming, or is it already here in certain kinds of concepts like your own?
I think it's already here. I think if you look at the restaurant landscape, from chef-driven restaurants to even steakhouses now, everybody
Right.
is either jumping on the bandwagon or adopting ways to cook, particularly vegetables, to cook vegetables in ways that are more flavorful and craveable, and in some cases healthy, or some cases not. So I think vegetables, there's a lot of kind of chef innovation going on, and everybody has access to that. I think where a lot of the and we're 100% plant-based, which
Hmm.
is really a differentiator from a lot of concepts that just add some plant-based things to the menu, whether
Right.
it's a Beyond Burger or Brussels sprouts, right?
Hmm.
I think where the true innovations going on in the plant-based space is around things like innovative proteins and how do you create super flavorful dishes that the guests maybe had not expected or had not seen before, in ways that surprise and delight them and allow them to say, "Wow, I didn't know that you could do that plant-based." That's
Hmm.
where we focus a lot of our innovation is around things that are 100% plant-based. And we always particularly with our vendor partners, we always start with purpose and try to partner with vendor partners that are in alignment with our purpose, whether it's around sustainability
Right.
or things that we think are good partnerships.
Interesting. So So obviously, culinary plays a big part of that. Are you seeing any specific trends in the culinary landscape from whether it's plant or if we get into the bioengineered products that are coming onto the market? Anything that you're seeing in terms of trends that really are kind of playing to the strengths of plant-based brands?
Definitely. I think particularly around plant-based proteins and plant-based dairy items. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing with the plant-based burgers is sort of the popularization of what's going on with replicating
Right.
meat with plant-based proteins, and there's a ton of innovation going on out in the industry and a ton of capital that's flowing into
Sure.
these companies that are looking to develop and replicate meat with plant-based proteins. And I think within the next decade, we're going to see pretty much any of the meat-based proteins replicated with plant-based proteins. There's some really interesting, fascinating, and pretty innovative companies that are developing, whether it's seafood or shrimp or pork or steak or all these. I believe all these proteins will be replicated and are being replicated. On the dairy side, I think you're already seeing this huge transformation from dairy-based products to plant-based dairy substitutes. We're seeing this clearly in grocery with liquid milk. I mean,
Right.
particularly millennials and younger have adopted plant-based milks at a huge pace, whether it's almond milk or oat milk. And there's other milks now that are really getting close to replicating the mouthfeel and the flavor and everything of dairy products. But it also applies to things like cheeses
Sure.
and sour cream and those kind of things. So I think we're going to continue to see this ongoing replication
Yeah.
of meat and dairy because that's really the most challenging, but also the biggest opportunity. And I think we're also going to see as these companies scale, it's actually going to become more affordable to
Mm-hmm.
eat plant-based proteins and dairy than it is the actual thing. And it's pure economics. And because today it goes from plant to animal
Right.
and the long cycles to grow animals and take care of animals and then process animals and then distribute animals.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about plant-based proteins and dairy, that goes from plant to product to distribution.
Right. Sure.
So as demand and scale grows, I think the economics will change because today it's more expensive to buy a plant-based burger than it is to buy a beef burger, for
Right.
example.
Mm-hmm.
But as it becomes less expensive and these companies continue to innovate the flavor profile in them, and most people will say, well, wow, okay, this tastes great. I know it's better for me. It's less expensive. Why wouldn't I want to eat this product?
Yeah, and I think you're right. As soon as we get to that point where price is no longer a barrier, that's going to change. That's really a game changer for the entire industry. And I think that's something that is, even though it's still probably a few years away before we see it realized in real pricing at national brands, maybe at some regional concepts or possibly local levels, where we are potentially going to see those kind of shifts in it. The dairy product is kind of interesting because I've tried a lot of the the plant-based cheeses, not quite there as far as quality and taste, at least the ones I've tried, versus things like whether it's the Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger, at least kind of what you're getting, and you do get a little bit of that mouthfeel, and it has that meat element to it that I think can still win over patrons and guests. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to move. When you look at trends for 2020 around the fast casual space, and let's maybe stay specifically in the healthy category, what areas are you seeing that you're really watching for 2020 and beyond?
I think we're going to see a continuation of companies adopting plant-based foods in the menu. I
Mm-hmm.
think, as I mentioned earlier, I think quote unquote plant-based has quickly become the bar for how people define healthy.
Right.
Not that so I think and there's a lot of sort of subsets to this plant-based category. Whether it's, I think there's a lot of awareness around what everybody sort of groups in this this bucket called superfoods,
Right.
whether it's turmeric or
Yeah.
sort of we call them the foodaceuticals. I think there's a growing awareness around the foodaceuticals, and I think we're going to see this continuation of these curated diets where I think today's consumer is saying, okay, I want to have a structured how I eat, and I don't want to overthink it. So
Yeah.
let me follow these sort of guidelines, or there's just, if you look at social media, and whether it's in fitness or fashion, it's the trend now is to say, okay, I want to follow one of these particular diets that I can have a structure around how I eat, and people get really engaged
Uh-huh.
around these diets,
Yeah.
and they want to know that restaurants can address those needs. So if I go into a restaurant, I want to know that, for example, if I'm somebody who's eating low carb, low sugar, I can get to those food items that I want to eat, and it meets my needs.
Right.
And so I think the concepts that are forward on being able to meet those needs quickly and be aware of sort of those growing trends, will be in a position to really take advantage of how today's consumer wants to eat their diets.
Yeah, for sure. And we've seen, my wife's a physician, and I've seen a lot of her colleagues and have been to a few medical conferences here recently where they're really talking about more natural style implementation of health control, in essence, to do less and less medication for people. And a lot of the elements of healing are based around foods. Whether it's things like you just mentioned, turmeric and things of that nature in the spice area, or in the flavoring areas, but also in plant-based, being a big factor in just natural healing, which when you go to these osteopathic conferences, they really get into a lot of that, where food is kind of the element of health for you. So it'll be interesting if we continue to see the medical fields really starting to adopt this area, which would be, I think, huge, and at the same time see a lot of new innovation in kind of the companies that are actually building the products that are kind of replacing our animal-based system. Also, one question for you on for trends on 2020, because as a brand like this, you obviously would appeal to certain types of people for employment. And we're seeing in the millennials that the value kind of proposition that a brand or a business brings forth for them to start working there is a real thing. Are you seeing that in the area of acquisition of labor for Veggie Grill?
Sure. I think your question, it's a very challenging labor market.
Yep.
Not only is it sort of full employment, but I think it's challenging for a lot of restaurant companies to recruit, hire, and retain, particularly entry level
Yeah.
team members. I think for us it's a bit different. We're a purpose driven brand, and so I think for us, if somebody's thinking about, well, why would I want to join Veggie Grill as opposed to another restaurant company, I think for us it's about, and we actually look to, when we interview potential team members, we look to see if they have a alignment, or they are somehow engaged with our purpose. Our purpose is we craft food that takes care of our lives and future.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually attract a lot of team members that really align with that purpose and believe in what we stand for as a brand. Being 100% plant-based brand, we are probably the most sustainable and the most holistic restaurant brand on the marketplace. So whether it's a team member who believes in protecting the planet in the future, somebody who really is into the plant-based movement and all that's wrapped in that, and some people come at it from the point of they don't believe in animal cruelty.
Right.
They believe that by being part of a plant-based brand, they're having an immediate impact on the environment. I mean, it's no secret that a lot of the degradation of the planet is because of the industrial food and livestock
For
system.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're they're burning the Amazon to graze cattle. 25% of greenhouse gas comes from animal-based methane. And so a lot of our team members come to us because they really believe in our purpose and what we stand for. And also the fact that we're helping people live better lives by eating this plant-based food. I mean, the single best thing that most people could do, both for their wellness and for the planet today, have an immediate impact on both,
Yep.
is to eat a plant-based meal. And so I think we attract team members that really are engaged by that purpose. And so, I know for myself, when I get up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to go to work, I know I'm having an impact, a positive impact on people's lives, on the future, on the planet, on people's wellness. We're helping people really understand that by eating a plant-based diet, not only is it delicious and craveable, but it helps them on their food journey.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
to your point, particularly the medical community, it's great to hear that there's growing awareness of that, because it's no secret and people are figuring this out pretty quickly, that most of the chronic diseases
Mm-hmm.
that plague the U.S. and other developing countries, which are heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, are all diet based.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot wrapped up in our purpose. We welcome everybody. I mean, we're not just a concept for vegans. 80% of our guests are not vegan or vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
They're just wanting to eat craveable plant-based food, whether it's once a week or every day. So it's a very welcoming concept. We want everybody to be a part of this movement, and we really believe that what we're doing is much more than just serving a meal. So
Right.
I think that's an advantage that we have, and one of the reasons that we find that our team members are more engaged and will want to stick around a bit longer than your typical restaurant concept.
Yeah. What are some of the top selling items on your menus? I've had a chance to be at several veggie grills around the country, and I'm always intrigued at, mainly because of your seasonal menus. What kind of is one of your heroes right now?
Yeah, I think one of our all-time favorites is our Santa Fe crispy chicken sandwich. It's totally delicious, and we've actually won a lot of sort of best chicken sandwiches, not best plant-based chicken sandwich. We won a lot of best chicken sandwich contests with that sandwich. So that's a favorite.
What's the core makeup of that sandwich? Is it a tofu base, or what's the core makeup?
It's made with it's a protein that mimics chicken, and it's made with pea, soy, and wheat protein.
Okay, all right, interesting.
And so that's one of our all-time favorites. We have a bowl called the Rustic Farm Bowl that is really a whole veggie bowl. It's got farro and roasted sweet potatoes and a broccoli pesto and roasted mushrooms, and sort of a delicious bowl of sort of this artisan, fruits and veggies and grains. On the salad side, one of our most popular salads is a Mediterranean super green salad. So it's a mix of super greens, and it's got hummus and a bunch of delicious toppings. We have a house-made falafel that we
that's
make.
Nice.
That's part of that salad, and grilled flatbread bread. It really eats like a meal. We have several different versions of the Beyond Burger that are very chef inspired and craft driven. One's what we call our Lux Burger. It has a truffle cheese sauce and oven roasted tomatoes and roasted mushrooms, and so it eats very much like a chef inspired
Very cool.
type of a burger. So yeah,
You're making me hungry here, Steve.
Yeah, and the thing that's unique about Veggie Grill is we have kitchens and we have cooks that actually make your food to order. It's not where you go down a line and people dump stuff in a bowl.
Sure.
Our food's made to order, and there's skill involved with our cooks and a lot of pride in what we put on the plate.
Yeah, absolutely. How many units are you guys up to now?
We're at 36. We'll be 37 as of next week. We'll open our first New York restaurant in the Flatiron.
Great.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. Well, Steve, it's been great having you on Fast Casual Nation. Thanks so much for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Likewise, it's been great. I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. For all you guys listening in, whether you're over on iTunes or maybe on Spotify or even Google Podcasts, make sure and subscribe if you're not. And also leave a comment, give us a rating, tell us what you think about the show. And if you have an idea for someone to be on the show, one of your favorite fast casual concepts, or an innovator around the fast casual industry, hit us up. You can just send us an email to producer@foodabletv.com, and can always hit me at Paul Barron on Twitter, which is pretty easy. I'll follow you back, and DM me if you've got some ideas around the show. I'll be happy to hear from you guys. Thanks again for listening in to Fast Casual Nation. We'll catch you next time.